People, welcome back to another episode of the Legacy Podcast. How are we doing today? So, we're in for episode 115. Now, I did just have to double check that because, again, every time I do an episode, I simply forget just how many episodes we've done and sort of how far this journey has came since episode 1. So, if you're a new listener, this is essentially a podcast that will focus on all things fitness, nutrition, coaching, business mindset, and everything else in between. I obviously try to get episodes out as frequently as possible, but how the sort of structure and the direction of the podcast goes now is that I sort of wait until an idea comes into mind. I will sort of identify a commonly asked question, and I will essentially then create an episode that will, provide an experience that gives you guys clarity moving forwards. The main and sole focus of this podcast is providing value, so that coming off the back end of this podcast, you've got something to take away. And if you apply that, if you take away what I'm giving you and you genuinely go away and apply that to your days, your day-to-day actions, then I can assure you, you will make progress. So with that being said, we're focusing on time management today. Now, I always love time management because I've been on both ends of the spectrum, in the sense that I've been on days where I haven't managed my days at all. The 24 hours, I've just completely wasted it, and I've sort of been in a massive grey area with what I need to do, who I need to become, and just generally moving forward, so to say, if that makes sense. And then we're also on the other end, which I see myself currently as in now, where I'm utilising every single given hour. Everything is switched on. I've got clarity, I've got vision, I've got direction, and most of all, I've got momentum. Once you sort of set that anchor and sort of hit the ground running with your routine, your structure, your lifestyle, your priorities, everything just becomes a lot easier. So I obviously wanted to do this episode because I know that it can help a lot of individuals. Not only do I get a lot of questions, but it's also something that I see a lot, whether it be observing people, conversations, check-ins, it could be anything at all. I do see a lack of time management when it comes to people making progress and people just getting what they want out of life. This podcast, real standout feature of this particular episode is how you can go away and transfer it to other, elements and avenues of your life, whether it be coaching, business, jobs, personal stuff. It could be literally anything at all. So the main thing here is structure and sort of setting your actual vision. What is it that you want to achieve? For me, you can't hit a target you can't see. A lot of people sometimes they're going nowhere fast. So here what we need to do is value direction over speed. It's okay to sometimes go a little bit less. It's okay to not be as fast as your compares, as other people around you. As long as you have direction and you know where you're going and why you're doing, that right there is already going to be a huge weight off your shoulders when it comes to time management. If we're aware that we all get 24 hours in a day, and this isn't one of them, like hustle porn ones where it's like 24/7 switch mode, grind mode on all the time. It's not that, but the bottom line is that we do get 24 hours in a day, and you need to make sure that you're using them in the right way possible. This doesn't mean that you always got to be writing the next email, writing the next blog, but if you can just do it to make sure that you're accounting for downtime, make sure that you make time for loved ones, make sure it's time to eat, to check in with your coach, then that right there is how you're going to be aware of what's going on in your day and get the most out of those 24 hours. But again, none of this is possible. None of this is possible right now if you don't go back to stage 1 where we're initially setting that anchor. So just take time to think, what is it that you want to achieve 3 to 6 months time, 12 to 24 months time? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to become? And sometimes even just do this exercise in the mirror. Sometimes when I'm getting ready, I'll just like to look in the mirror, or when I'm doing my work and I'm listening to music, I like to sort of almost imagine like I can see a bird's eye view of myself, if that makes sense. And it's the work that I'm doing then, the person that I see in the mirror then, and then I will visualize where I want to be, that person, that future version of me. And in the case then, it's just reverse engineering. So say for example, we'll keep this really fitness based. Say in the next 6 months time, you want to lose your next stone or your first stone. We need to look at that goal and we want to work backwards. Most people, they work the other way around. They think, right, I need to lose weight, so I need to do this tomorrow, that tomorrow, and they work the other way around. Whereas if you can identify your time goals, your time zones, you want to work backwards and think, right, in 3 months time, I need to have lost half a stone. On a month-to-month basis, on a week-to-week basis, I need to be losing 1 to 2 pounds of fat each week. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do that by reducing my caloric intake, making sure that each and every single day I make sure that I hit enough protein, my carbs are timed effectively, and with each meal I'm getting a good dose of protein. So what we've just done there in that brief sort of explanation is taken a 6 month target, broken it down into a 3 month target, then into a monthly, then into a weekly, and then into a daily, and then even smaller one, we've gone into meal targets. So that right there just allows you to sort of see just how easy it is to plan out your day, manage your time better. So then obviously what we can start to do is focus on the more physical stuff. Now, you guys know me. If you're watching this, you follow me on Instagram, you use my stories, you sort of just know me as an individual, you will know that I am very, I won't say sort of control freak, but I'm very consuming and like dominant over my 24 hours. Like, I need to be the one in control. I need to know what's going on around me. I need to know everything. And I do that by use of planners. Even as it stands right now, I've got 3 whiteboards around me. I've got 1, 2, 3 planners. Now, granted, not all of those are used for planning. Some of them are used for jotting down ideas, some of them are used for writing down goals, but I like to use the physical element and sort of escape your head. And I do this for sort of targets as well. Very specific with the word targets and dreams. Dreams are theoretical. They exist, but they'll never really become a reality. You need to make sure that you can convert your dreams into targets, because again, we get a target, we reverse engineer, we work backwards. And what I found is that even though, yes, you're thinking about losing 6 months, you're thinking about losing weight in 6 months, your desire is to lose a stone in 6 months, it is not really going to be truly achieved if you don't write it down. When you write it down, you're really sort of, it's like you're sending a little letter into the universe. You're really affirming that and making sure that when you write that, there's a lot of cement around it. It's structured, it's set in stone. You can pin it up on your wall, so that every time you walk past that on the fridge, on the wall, subconsciously or consciously, even when you're sleeping, your mind is still aware of that. It's still going in, and you're still aware that in 6 months' time you need to lose a stone, as opposed to when it goes in your head, because your head can be a minefield. You're going to have good days, bad days, slow days, days where you don't want it, days where you're not feeling it. So if you can sort of just get it out of your head, put it on a piece of paper, put it on a whiteboard, what you're doing then is you're freeing up more internal space. Let's call you all computers. I'm calling myself a computer. If you can free up more internal space, that's going to improve performance, isn't it? Basic rules of computing, you free up more disk space, your laptop, your device can perform a lot faster. Human minds work the exact same way. So if you can sort of start to write down your goals, understand where you want to be on a mental aspect, yes, but then start to translate that into physical stuff, automatically you're going to start getting more out of your days and, making the most out of your time. And then I guess obviously as a final point, so to say, would be the actual day itself, so the 24 hours. Obviously we've always got to rule out sleep, so a good 6 to 8 hours of sleep. So let's just put that to the side. We're not really working a full 24 hours, are we? But let's say your waking hours, which is going to differentiate from person to person, I know that. But you want to look at your waking hours, whether that be like you wake up at 6 a.m, go to bed at 10 p.m, look at those, split it into thirds. So we've got a morning, an afternoon, and an evening. Now, one of the biggest limiting factors, now I'm still relatively young, a lot of young people that I speak to, because they're generally the people that I work with, make up most of my client roster and DMs and so to say, they're sleeping in. When it gets to weekends, they could be hungover and they're sleeping into like 1, 2 p.m. So automatically you've lost a third of your day. So by splitting your day into thirds, what you can do is you can delegate certain tasks to certain time zones of the day. You can find out when you're most productive. Generally speaking, most people will have a set peak in the day where they are most productive. For me, it's the morning. Evenings for me are just not it. I'm exhausted. I want to go to bed. I want to sleep. Get on sleep. My peak time is mornings. Really early morning when everybody's asleep. I'm programming myself. I'm just wired in, focused. It's all there. Other people are the opposite. You need to identify when you're most productive and prioritize your tasks to correlate with when you're most productive. For example, I like to, right now as we speak, I'm planning out and creating all my content. There's no point me doing that in the evening when I'm flagging and tired, because I'm not going to be able to apply most of my effort. Whereas if I can do that in the morning, which we are doing now, I'm focused, I'm plugged in and I'm ready to go. So I'm correlating when I'm most productive with the right third of my day so I can get the most out of, my allocated waking times. Then you want to make sure that when you're going into these thirds, you can make time for downtime, different elements of what makes us human. Your downtime, being active, making sure that we eat meals, we've got work. So whilst we split the day up into thirds, and yes, you may have a 9 to 5 job, there are still hours within the day where you can learn to develop a new skill, do something that you love, make time to train, eat, sleep. And this again is obviously where the concept of a coach comes in, because you can make sure that we do all the heavy lifting for you. That's essentially what I do for my clients. Even as we speak now, I should probably start doing YouTube videos of these, but I'd be able to pull up a sort of like a time management sheet I provide for my clients on their G Sheets, and it allows us to sort of look at their waking hours, and we can essentially drag and drop their work schedules in, when I want them to eat, when I want them to sleep, train, and so forth. So we can look at that and think, right, time management is done and dusted. And the beauty of this is sort of like as a wrap up, I guess, on this episode is that if you can plan it all, do everything that I've said, adherence is going to become second nature because you're managing your hours, and because it's so second nature, so programmed, it runs like clockwork, you're just going to get results just like that because it's all tailored to you, it works for you and not against you. So I'm going to wrap up the episode there, guys. I would love to know your thoughts, and again, if you are watching, repost on your stories, tag me and make sure that I can share it.